The auditorium buzzed with the sound of applause, cheers, and flashing cameras as hundreds of proud families stood shoulder to shoulder, phones raised high, waving colorful signs and banners bearing the names of their graduating children. But, amidst the sea of excitement, tucked into the far corner of the room near the side exit, stood a man who remained motionless. A tall figure in a faded Marine Corps dress jacket and sun-worn jeans, his back straight, his eyes scanning the rows. With the practiced sharpness of a soldier who had learned long ago how to remain unseen when necessary. His name was Daniel Beck, retired Master Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, 22 years of service, 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan, a man who had once pulled shrapnel out of his own side and buried brothers whose names he still whispered in dreams. And yet, nothing he had faced in uniform. No explosion, no ambush, no night patrol had prepared him for the moment unfolding in front of him. The graduation of his only son, Tyler Beck, the first in their family to attend and complete college. Not boot camp, not basic, but college. And Daniel, who hadn't cried. Since his last funeral detail, felt the sting behind his eyes when the invitation came in the mail, handwritten in Tyler's looping script, with a simple message enclosed. "Dad, I want you in the front row." That card never left his chest pocket, folded neatly like a sacred oath, and Daniel had driven across 3 states to get there, sleeping in his pickup truck overnight in the university parking lot. Not because he had no money for a hotel, but because he didn't want to miss a second of the moment his son took the stage. He wore his old Marine coat not out of vanity, but because it was the best thing he owned, and that morning he walked into the packed auditorium expecting nothing but a seat among the sea of proud parents, until a woman with a headset intercepted him near the rope line that separated the reserved seating. "Sir, this section is for honored guests only," she said, glancing at his clothes more than his face, and Daniel, steady as ever, replied, "My son is graduating. He put me on the list." The woman didn't even check. "Step aside now, or security will escort you." No emotion, no curiosity, just a corporate tone of dismissal. 2 security guards began to move toward him, but Daniel, disciplined as always, stepped back without protest. What neither the woman nor the guards realized was that in the 5th row, a line of silent men had already seen everything. They wore civilian suits, but their postures gave them away. Broad shoulders, squared chins, the quiet readiness of warriors who had known command. For now, they said nothing. Daniel found a space against the side wall, standing tall, hands behind. His back, eyes fixed on the stage, his presence steady and unwavering. He wasn't there for applause or validation. He was there for Tyler. The ceremony began with a polished voice welcoming deans, faculty, and distinguished families. People adjusted their seats, folded programs in their laps, and Daniel stood, like a statue, every inch the Marine he had always been. The same usher passed by again, this time muttering to a colleague, "He's still here. I don't think he belongs." "Call security again," came the reply. Still, Daniel didn't move. He'd held his position during firefights. He could hold it through this. On stage, the son of the dean delivered a speech, thanking families and honoring values like professionalism and presentation. Then, with a smug pause, he added, "Especially those of us who reflect the dignity this university upholds." A few laughed. Daniel didn't blink, but in the 5th row, 6 men sat up straighter, exchanging a silent look. One nodded, another clenched his jaw. Then came the next move. One of the guards approached Daniel again, clipboard in hand. "Sir, there have been some concerns," he said. "We need you to come with us to verify your name." Daniel, calm and composed, answered, My son asked me to be here. I'm not leaving until I see him walk. The guard insisted. People whispered. A woman muttered, "That man's making people uncomfortable." Another, "Honestly, it's inappropriate." Daniel nodded and followed without complaint. He wasn't a man who made scenes. But just as they reached the aisle, a sharp sound cut the air. A single chair scraping. Then another. Then another. 6 men stood at once from the 5th row. No uniforms. No shouts. Just presence. They moved as one toward the guard, and from their jackets, each produced something small and gleaming. A Navy SEAL trident. They said nothing, only held the pins up. The lead SEAL stepped forward, looked at the guard, and then turned toward the crowd. "This man doesn't leave this room," he said evenly, voice calm but undeniable. "He led us through hell. He stays." The room shifted, air thick with realization. The guards hesitated. I didn't know," one stammered. The SEALs didn't answer. They didn't need to. The murmurs began to rise. "Who is he?" someone asked. Another, seated, near the stage, stood slowly, medals gleaming on his chest. "That's Master Sergeant Daniel Beck, 3rd Recon, Operation Phantom Sun, Fallujah. The only man who made it out of that alley after dragging 5 of us under fire." Audible gasps filled the room. A phone slipped from a hand. Still, Daniel hadn't moved. He didn't need the attention. He needed the moment. Then another voice, stronger, younger, rang through the speakers. It was Tyler. He had stepped out of the line of graduates, cap tilted, microphone in hand. "That's my dad." Silence. Tyler walked to the edge of the stage. He never asked for recognition. He never boasted. But every day for the last 4 years he called me, reminded me to stand tall, to keep going, to be someone he could look in the eye and say, "I'm proud of you." Today's supposed to be my day. But I'm proud because of him. If he's not welcome here, then I'm not either. With that, Tyler removed his cap, stepped down from the stage, and walked directly to his father. The crowd parted. Tyler approached, stood at attention, and saluted. The 6 SEALs followed, suit, each raising a silent salute of their own. Daniel didn't return the gesture. He stepped forward and embraced his son. "You didn't have to do that," he whispered. "No, Dad," Tyler replied. "They had to see it." The usher who had once blocked him stood in silence. The clipboard now hung limp at her side. Parents who had once ignored him now bowed their heads. And Daniel, dismissed as a nobody moments ago, now stood as the quiet center of gravity in a room full of people who suddenly remembered what respect looked like. Tyler guided him to the front row. This time, no one stopped them. The same usher stepped aside without a word. Daniel passed her without breaking stride. He didn't need her apology. The silence had already earned it. The 6 SEALs stood behind him in formation, arms crossed, like silent guardians. One leaned forward and muttered, "About time." The dean, pale and shaken, stumbled to the podium. We are honored today," he stammered. "To have among us distinguished guests we should have recognized earlier." A ripple of hesitant applause grew into something louder, more honest. It wasn't for the students anymore. It was for something forgotten, something sacred. But Daniel didn't react. He simply took the seat next to his son's name, unfolded the invitation from his pocket, read it once more, and tucked it back into his coat. That's why he came. Not for the audience, not for recognition, just for that moment. After the ceremony, students lined up, not to meet the dean, but to shake Daniel's hand. A mother touched his shoulder. "Thank you for raising him right." The 6 seals approached once more. One handed Daniel a small coin, a challenge coin from their unit. "You were always the standard," he said. "We never forgot." Daniel looked down at the coin, then at his son. For the first time all day, he smiled. Not wide, not flashy, just enough to say, "This matters." He had never asked to be seen, never needed applause. He had simply shown up quietly, with honor. And when they tried to push him aside, those who remembered stood, not out of obligation, but out of debt. Because some heroes don't speak loudly. They simply exist in the background, until the silence around them becomes too heavy to ignore.